Hey, on this episode of Mind Your Business, we're going to talk about being richer than you think, the dangers of living a discontented life. And so we're going to talk about how contentment really helps you to mind your business. So come on, hang out with us. Hey, welcome to Mind Your Business podcast. Today, we're going to talk about you're richer than you think. You're actually richer than you think. And so we're going to deal with the dangers of a discontented life. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so I know somebody listening today is sitting on something, a business idea that's been in your head for years, a phone call you need to make, a gift God has given you, and you keep saying that you're going to develop it when timing is better. A next step you need to see clearly to find reasons not to take. In other words, what I'm saying is there's a step that you need to take. You see that step clearly. However, you keep putting it off and procrastinating. And the longer you sit there and the more you don't do it, then the more normal the delay begins to feel, until one day you wake up and realize you've been Esau, who we're going to talk about today, not because because of something from you, or not because of something you did, because you treated what God gave you like it could wait, and really it couldn't. So today, I want to show you why you're doing that and how to stop. Listen, I am Cliff Watson, and this is Mind Your Business. Let's get into it. Today, we're in Genesis chapter 25, and I want you to be warned up front. This is going to hit close to home because what we're going to talk about, or what we're going to look at, is not just an ancient story about two twin brothers. It is a story of every person who has ever been worn down by the grind of the daily survival, the daily hustle and grind, that they stop being able to see the value of what God has already placed in their hands. Okay? Here's the core problem I want to solve today. Most of us are not broke because we lack opportunity. We're broke financially, spiritually, and relationally because we've been sitting on unrealized assets, things that God has already gave us that we haven't developed, haven't invested in, and we haven't acted on those things. So God has given us things right there in our hand, and that's what Mind Your Business is all about. And we have done nothing with them. And the reason we haven't acted is because the pressure of today makes tomorrow feel less real. It makes it feel less likely. It makes it feel less important than it actually is. That is exactly what happened to Esau. And by the time we're done today, you're going to understand why you keep delaying, and you're going to have a specific action to take in the next 24 hours, okay? So you're gonna know why you keep delaying it, and you're gonna have some actions to take in the next 24 hours. But first, what I want you to understand here, is your commitment. Your commitment. One of the things that you have to understand, number one, is your commitment determines your contentment. Your commitment determines your commitment. Watch this. Genesis chapter 25. As I said, we were in today, and we're going to talk about Jacob and Esau. But look at verse 27. It says, Esau became a skillful hunter a man of the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man staying amongst the tents. Okay? God uses Moses here to introduce these two brothers with a contrast that seems simple on the surface, but is loaded underneath. There's a lot here to unpack, okay? And Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the open country. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm criticizing Esau to a degree for his work ethic, because he had a great work ethic. He worked hard, and so I'm not criticizing that part. This man, he had real skill. Hunting in the ancient world back then it required, it didn't have all the great, hunting tools to find animals and calling animals and all of that. So it took patience, it took discipline, the ability, you had to know how to read the environment. Again, they didn't have the tools to help you read the environment. You had to know how to do that. And the ability to perform under pressure. When the animal is coming, or when it's time to really catch the animal, it begins to create a pressure. You have to know how to perform under pressure. So by any means, on the outside, Esau looked very impressive. He looked very impressive. But what Moses is describing is not just what Esau did. He's describing what Esau was committed to. He was committed really to the wrong thing, because where a man's consistently put his time and energy, his passion, that is his real commitment. Not what he says, but what he actually does. It's not what he said, it's what he actually does. And then understand something. He was a hunter, and he was a man of the open country. That's not necessarily what God's people did back then. They were mainly sheep herders and that kind of thing. And so this hunting and what Esau is actually doing, what you actually see is him participating in the things that the world participated in. He went away from the family of God, as we'll see in a second, and went to what the rest of the world was doing. And that's what he was committed to, and that became Esau's problem. But now look at Jacob. The text says that Jacob was a quiet man. The Hebrew word is tam, which means complete, all right? It means complete. It doesn't mean he was soft. It doesn't mean that he was, some soft dude that just stayed in the house. He was quiet. He ain't had no backbone. That's not what it means. It means that he was complete. When it says he's a quiet man, it means that he was whole, and he was a man of integrity. That's what it actually meant. And he stayed amongst the tents, all right? The tents was where the family gathered, where the covenant was discussed, where the promises of God was passed down, where the character was actually formed, or the godly character was actually formed. Jacob's commitment was actually, as we see now, to the things of God, when Esau's commitment was actually committed to the things of the world. Your commitment is always producing something every single day. The things that you are committed to is producing something every single day. What you are committed to is either depositing into your future or it's withdrawing from it. Esau's commitment to the open country was producing a man whose entire identity was all external. It was almost like a show off. It was showing something that wasn't really deep rooted deep down inside. It was almost like a person that's trying to show that he's something that he not really is. On the outside, it looked good, but it did not do anything for him as it related to his commitment to God and carrying out the purpose that God had for him. Jacob's commitment was producing a man who was rooted, settled, and whole. And that wholeness, it was the seed of everything that we call contentment. It was the seed of everything that we call contentment. Jacob was such a content man, as we see that the Bible now begins to describe him. Listen to this. Listen to this key principle. You will never find contentment in what you are constantly chasing unless you're chasing God. If you're chasing the things of the world, you'll never find contentment in it unless you're chasing God. The world will always give you another hunt. It's going to always have another hunt for you, but it will never give you rest. It will give you a hunt, but it won't give you rest. And then look at this. Look at how the commitment, your commitment can help you with your contentment. But then look at how when you're content, how it keeps you in position. When you're content, how it actually keep you in position. Let's look at verse 28 and 29. It says, Rebekah loved Jacob. Once it talks about Rebekah loved Jacob once when Jacob was cooking some stew. Now I kind of broke that down a little bit here because the beginning of that, of course, it talks about how Isaac loved Esau and Rebekah loved Jacob. And then it begins to talk about, now it goes a little further and it says, once when Jacob was cooking some stew. Watch this. When we look at verse 28 and 29, there's something here that's important. Most people read right past. Verse 28 tells us that Isaac loved Esau because of the wild game he brought home. But Rebekah loved Jacob. And then verse 29 just quietly says, once when Jacob was cooking some stew. Okay? Sit with that image. I want you to sit with that image. Jacob cooking stew. No drama, no big moment, no conquest. Just a man at home in his environment doing what he does. This is a picture of real contentment. He wasn't anxious about what he didn't have. He wasn't out chasing the next thing. He was present. And not only was he present, but he was productive. And not only was he productive, but you see a man that is at peace right where he was. And notice what Rebekah saw that Isaac actually missed. Okay? Notice what Rebekah saw that Isaac actually missed. Isaac was impressed with what Esau brought to the table, the tangible results, the external provisions. But Rebekah saw what Jacob was becoming on the inside and what he was becoming as it related to a content man. She saw a man who was rooted, present, and in position. Being in position means being fully present in the right environment at the right time for your formation and for your opportunity. Jacob didn't go looking for the most important moment of his life. He was simply home when it walked through the door. One of the most important moments of Jacob's life, he was where God would have him to be when that important moment walked through the door. There is something powerful about a person so rooted in the right environment that their blessing finds them. Their blessing finds them. When you chase after God instead of chasing after the world, God begins to put you in the right position. And at that point, that's when your blessings begin to find you. Okay? Look at this key principle here I want you to understand. Contentment keeps you in the room where opportunity finds you. See, when you're content, that keeps you in a room, and then opportunity actually finds you there in that room. But watch what else contentment does for you. Watch what else contentment does for you. The third thing that we see that contentment does, or the third point here I want to mention, is that contentment gives you vision. Contentment actually gives you vision. Verse 31 of chapter 25 says this. It says, Jacob replied, first sell me your birthright. All right? Jacob replied, first sell me your birthright. Here is where contentment pays its greatest dividend. Look at verse 31. The moment Esau walks in the door, now mind you, in verse 30, it talks about how Esau walks in the door and he's famished. We'll talk about that a little later. But here it says, the moment Esau walks in the door, or I'm saying, the moment Esau walks in the door, depleted and begging Jacob, and begging, Jacob doesn't panic. He doesn't get swept up in his brother's urgency. He sees an opportunity and moves on it with complete clarity. He says very calmly and very boldly, first sell me your birthright. While Esau's world had collapsed down to the next 5 minutes, Jacob was thinking about the next 5 decades. While Esau could only see a bowl of stew, Jacob sees a generational inheritance that is the power, that's the power of contentment. Because Jacob wasn't desperate. He could think and look and act very clearly because he could be accurate in what he was doing. Because he could see accurately, he recognized what something was worth. See, his contentment brought him to the point where he wasn't desperate and he could think clearly and he can actually see accurately, and that helps him to now begin to recognize what something was worth before anyone else can put a price on it, okay? Before anyone else can put a price on it. Another key principle here, a content person can see value that a desperate person cannot, okay? A content person can see value that a desperate person cannot. Another thing we see about contentment is contentment allows you to think generationally, or contentment helps you to think about a legacy, think legacy. He says again, first sell me your birthright. All right, first sell me your birthright. Jacob wasn't just seeing an opportunity, he was seeing a generational opportunity. So it wasn't just, something here. He was thinking generationally. The birthright represented a future position, future authority. The covenant promises of Abraham. That's just what this actually meant. Abraham's covenant promises that Abraham actually got from God. This thing, or this birthright, Jacob understood what the value was, and he understood the future authority and the covenant promises behind it. And so Jacob was thinking about his children, and not only his children, but his children's children. And Esau was thinking about the moment. or he was thinking about his stomach at the time. Contentment is what makes that kind of thinking possible. And so when you're discontent, when you're all over the place, when you're anxious, when you always worried, it takes away the possibility for you to have the bandwidth in your mind to be able to focus on those things that God has placed in your sphere of influence, and not only in your sphere of influence, but the things that God has placed in your life that's actually there to bless you. When you're in survival mode, always behind, always chasing, always putting out fires, you cannot think generationally. Your brain is too occupied with today to have any bandwidth for tomorrow. But when you are content, when your soul is settled, you can think beyond yourself. And thinking beyond yourself is where legacy begins. So that's the important part of being content. Now watch this. Discontentment makes you vulnerable. Discontentment makes you vulnerable. Now let's go back to 29 and 30 here. It says, Esau came in from the open country famished. Quick, let me have some of that red stew. Quick, let me have some of that red stew. Now, the camera shifts here. Now, I put this after verse 31 strategically just for the sake of this podcast. But of course, this came before, and we see that the camera switches from one brother to the next. But here we see Esau came in from the open country, the very world that he was giving his everything to. Understand this. He was giving everything to this world, his identity, his passion, his time, his best energy, all invested out there in that field. He gave it all. And he comes home famished. He comes home absolutely wore out. And the word that word famished really matters here, because famished in the Hebrew, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, is ayap. It doesn't mean hungry. It means exhausted. So in our English text, we look at famished and think of it meaning hungry, and that's why he was coming in running for some stew. But he wasn't only hungry. Yeah, he was hungry. He wasn't only hungry, but the word actually means he was exhausted. He was depleted. He was faint. He was running completely empty. He had nothing to give. The world Esau gave everything to had nothing left to give him. And that's how it is when we're chasing after the things of the world. We chase after it and chase after it, and we give and give and give. And we give to those things that have absolutely nothing to give us. And sometimes it's people, sometimes it's an organization, sometimes it could be a job, sometimes it can be a number of different things. But when you're outside and you're chasing after those things that the world is giving you, instead of being content and being in the presence of God, the world then begins to leave you empty. He poured himself out for the open country. And again, the open country sent him home with absolutely nothing. And that is the long-term cost of committing yourself to the wrong things. The world has a terrible return. The world has absolutely a terrible return on investment. It will take your time, your energy, your passion, and your best years. It will send you home empty every single time. It will make you a depleted person, not to other people, but to yourself. It will make you a depleted person, not only to your people, not just to other people, but to yourself. When you are empty, your judgment doesn't just suffer, it actually disappears, and it's hard to make good decisions. Your entire world collapses for the next 5 minutes. And so you're so worried about how you're gonna do things now. How am I gonna pay this? How am I gonna do that? How am I gonna do that? Because you put yourself in a position when you are discontent and you're chasing after the world and doing all the things that the world thinks that is good. Maybe it's the car you're driving. You have the car that you're driving so you can impress the world. Maybe it's the places that you go. You're going to all of these different clubs and hanging out all night and spending the money and drinking the alcohol and smoking the weed. Why? Because those are the things that the world has to offer. And guess what? It's leaving you empty. Maybe it's that man or that girl that you're chasing after, and you know they mean you no good. They have absolutely no value for you in the life, but because it looks good to be with this person, or because you think that the world of this person still leaves you discontent. Discontentment takes you out of position. Contentment puts you in position. And discontentment literally has you worried about right now instead of being able to think of the future. And in that state, I'm sure you will agree to the things, I'm sure you will agree that your mind is not rested, you can't be clear-minded, and you can't contend to the things that may be right there at your fingertips that will help you to mind your business or make you richer than what you actually think you are. The things that you have that makes you richer than you actually think. A key principle here is discontentment collapses your world down to the very next 5 minutes. And that's what I've been saying for the last couple of minutes. Discontentment collapses your world to the next 5 minutes instead of you being able to think generationally and think legacy. You're thinking of the right now. One of the things that discontentment actually also does is it drives you toward immediate gratification. It drives you towards immediate gratification. Look at verse 30 of chapter 25. It says, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." Again, you look at how Esau makes his request. Quick, let me have some of that red stew. Everything about this sentence right here has urgency behind it. I want it now. I want it now. I got to pay it now. I got to do it now. I can't think about anything else because I got to deal with this now. No greeting, no patience, no pause, no perspective, just quick. Give it to me now. That's it. And the word quick is this entire podcast, if you will, in one syllable. Esau wasn't thinking of yesterday's decisions or tomorrow's consequences. What he was thinking about, he was living in the 5-second window of desperation. That's where he was. He was right there in that 5-second window of desperation, and everything outside of that window had ceased to exist for him right then because the world had depleted him and he had no other choice, so he thought, but to get some of that red stew, and no matter what it cost, he was going to go after it because he was thinking of right now. That is what discontentment does for you over time. And we see that God uses Moses here because he's the one who wrote the book of Genesis, we see that God uses Moses to add. That is why he is called Edom, the red one, named after what he craved in his worst moment. Look at that. He is named after what he craved in his worst moment, not after his skill, not named after his birthright position. He was named after his appetite. He was named after what he had did at that moment. So be careful what you are known for wanting. It might just become your name. You ever seen people, we name people names for all kind of different reasons, and many times it does associate with the things that they want and the things that they may have even done wrong. Be careful, because we see that Esau was named Edom after what his appetite was actually for. And look at this. If you know anything about Bible history, we always call, our forefathers, or, the people that, the fathers of the faith or whatever, we always say Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But it really should have been Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. But because he gave up his birthright for some stew, we actually are saying now Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's just how his legacy was taken away, to the point where we would be discussing him, well, we are discussing him, but we would be discussing him in a much more positive way had he been a man of contentment. The other thing that discontentment does, so discontentment leads to immediate gratification, but watch what immediate gratification blinds you to what you actually have. So when you're trying to get something right away, that immediate gratification, it blinds you to what you actually have. Look at verse 32. It says, "Look, I am about to die," Esau said. "What is good is birthright to me." He felt so exhausted that he felt like he was about to die. So to him, it was like, I got to eat this stew and live, forget about the birthright, and just forgot about everything in the future. That is what years of discontentment had done for Esau. It had completely destroyed his ability to access value. He was standing in front of a generational inheritance. The covenant promise of Abraham. As I said, Abraham, Isaac, and it should have been Esau, but it's Jacob. He was standing right there in the covenant promises of Abraham, the double portion of his father's estate, the leadership and the leadership position of his entire family. And he genuinely could not see that. He genuinely missed it because he had gave himself so much to the open country, or for our sake today, so much to the world. This is the most dangerous outcome of a discontented life. It does not just produce bad decisions. It doesn't just produce bad decision. It rewires the way you see value. It totally changes the way you see value. It trains your brain to overvalue what is urgent and undervalue what is eternal. In other words, it takes your brain and says, hey, I'm not thinking about 5 years, 10 years from now on what I can have. I gotta take care of this right now. And once you start rewiring, once that rewiring happens, you can be standing in front of something absolutely priceless and genuinely not recognize it. You can be standing in front of something absolutely priceless and not even realize it. Pressure doesn't just produce bad decisions. Pressure reveals what you actually value. And if you've been living in discontentment long enough, what pressure reveals about your value system might just surprise you. It might just surprise you. But look, here's how you know. Here's how you know. I'm gonna give you an Esau audit. And you can go to iamcliffwatson.com. If you don't write this down, you can go to iamcliffwatson.com and you can download the what I call the Esau audit. Here's the Esau audit. Think of one thing that you know God has placed in your hands that you would have been treating, or that you have been treating like it can wait. In other words, what I'm saying is, think of that one thing. God placed it in your hands. You know you could do it, but you've been treating it like it can wait. Think of that one thing. Maybe it's a business idea that has been living rent-free in your head, you know, for a long time, couple years or however long. Maybe it's a skill you have that you've never actually monetized. Maybe it's a relationship you know you need to invest in. There's some relationships we know we need to invest in and we just haven't done it. Or maybe it's a calling. Maybe it's a calling. You keep saying you'll pursue when the timing is better. Got it? Good. Hold on to that, because I want you to hear what Moses says about that exact thing you just thought of. I want you to hear what Moses said about that exact thing that you just thought of. Our fifth point here is not knowing your value can destroy your destiny. Not knowing your value can destroy your destiny. Watch this. Verse 34 of chapter 25. We're still in chapter 25 of Genesis. And it says, he ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. So Esau despised his birthright. Now keep that thing in your head as we're going through this. Look at verse 34 somewhat slowly. Let's look at it slowly. 4 movements, 4 beats. He ate. The Bible says he ate. The hunger was gone. The thing that felt like it was killing him 5 minutes ago. He's satisfied just like that. So the hunger was gone, just like that. Now that he ate the stew. Then it says he drank. Completely at ease now, the urgency had evaporated the moment his needs were met. The moment his needs were met, the urgency was going away. He got up. No hesitation, no pause, no moment of reflection about what he had just traded. None of that. Then it says he left. He left. Not looking back, no second thought, just walked out the door like nothing significant happened. Like nothing significant happened. And then the Bible delivers the verdict. God uses Moses here to deliver the verdict. Not Esau's verdict, the divine verdict, I like to call it. The divine verdict. Recorded for every generation. I think it's recorded for every generation. It says, so Esau despised his birthright. Not lost, not traded, not gave away under pressure. He despised it. The Hebrew word is baza, to treat something as worthless, to hold it in contempt. The Bible uses the words to tell us that this was not a simple bad transaction made under pressure. It was a revelation of what Esau truly believed about his covenant inheritance all along. The offer didn't create the contempt, it just revealed it. The offer didn't create the contempt, it just revealed it. And I want to bring you back to the one thing you identified in the Esau audit. The reason you've been delaying is not because the timing isn't right. The delay is revealing something about how much you actually value that thing. Because what you truly value, or what we truly value, we protect. What we truly believe in, we move toward even when it's uncomfortable. Esau's destiny wasn't destroyed in one dramatic moment. It was destroyed in the accumulation of small daily contempts, choosing the field over the tent, the immediate over the eternal, the appetite over the inheritance, until the day came when he stood in front of something priceless and genuinely could not see it. He genuinely could not see it. Don't let your biography end with that sentence. Please don't let your biography end with that sentence. You say, well, Cliff, what sentence? Until the day came, he stood right in front of something priceless and genuinely could not see it. Listen, another thing I want you to understand is what you don't value, you'll eventually lose. What you don't value, you'll eventually lose. Despising doesn't always look like outright rejection. Let me show you what it looks like in everyday life. Sometimes despising looks like neglect a gift God gave you that you just never developed. Sometimes despising looks like perpetual delay. I'll get to it when the timing is right. Sometimes despising looks like treating sacred things casually, covenants honored in name, but neglected in practice. Let me repeat that for you. Sometimes despising looks like treating sacred things casually, covenants that are offered, that are honored in the name. I like this, or you uphold that, but it's neglected in practice. You just don't do anything about it. The verdict doesn't always come in a loud, dramatic moment. Sometimes it comes quietly. The day the opportunity has closed, the day the gift is gone, don't wait for the loud moment. Access it now while there's still time. Access it now while there's still time. Listen, another thing you need to understand is contentment. Contentment now is the guard against despising what God has given you. Contentment is the guard against what God has already given you. The antidote to everything we've talked about, to everything that we talked about today, is not merely hustle. It's not a better morning routine. And there's nothing wrong with a morning routine. Don't get me wrong. But that's not the antidote. The antidote is contentment. The antidote is contentment, being a content person. Minding your business in such a way that you handle the day-to-day where you're not always putting out fire. Everything is not always urgent. And then you're able to be content, and you're able to have the bandwidth mentally to think generationally, to think legacy. A content person values what they have before the pressure arrives. They don't need a crisis to remind them what's important. That's what a content person is. Because contentment produces a settled awareness of the value of what God has placed in your hands. It gives you that awareness of the things that God has already placed in your hand, and that awareness is what protects you when the pressure comes. The antidote to Esau's fate is Jacob's posture. Present, committed to the right thing, content. And he was in position, valuing what he had before the moment of pressure, valuing, again, what he had before the moment of pressure revealed whether he did or he didn't. Contentment is not just a feeling, it's actually an action and a protective force. It's an action and a protective force. So here's the 24-hour challenge. We're gonna conclude here. Here's a 24-hour challenge I want to give you. Let me tie this all together. Two brothers, same bloodline. Actually, they was twins, same household, same opportunity. Esau committed to the world and came home empty. Jacob committed to the covenant and was in position when his destiny walked through the door. Jacob's commitment kept him in position. His position produced contentment, and his contentment actually gave him vision. And his vision allowed him to recognize the value of something that his desperate, depleted, discontented brother standing in the same room generally could not see. He couldn't see it. And Esau, the most naturally gifted man, I mean, he had some real gifts here. He walked away from his generational inheritance for a bowl of soup. For a bowl of soup without even feeling the loss. And the Bible says the Bible delivered the verdict, and it said that he despised his birthright, which was absolutely ridiculous. Now I want you to come back to the thing you identified in the Esau audit. I want you to come back to the thing you identified in the Esau audit, the thing that's been waiting, the thing that you've been telling yourself you'll get to when the timing is right. You'll get to when the timing is right. Here's your 24-hour challenge. Number one, write down the thing. Write down the thing. The thing from the Esau audit. Write it down. Get it out of your head and put it on paper. The Bible says, write the vision and make it plain, all right? So write it down on paper. Number two, I want you to answer this question. What is this actually worth if I developed it? What is it actually worth if I developed it? Not what it's worth today sitting untouched. What is it worth if I invest in it, show up consistently for the next 12 months? What is it worth? All right. Number three, identify one action you can take tomorrow. Identify one action that you can take tomorrow. Not the whole plan, not the full launch. One step, phone call, a registration, one move that says to God, I see you put this in my hands, and I am now going to treat it, and I am now going to treat it with value and not treat it like Esau treated his birthright. All right? Here's the good news. I want to end with this today. You're not Esau, at least not yet. You're not Esau. The stew is still on the stove. The birthright is still in your hand, and the verdict has not been written yet. But what you do in the next 24 hours is writing it out now. It's going to begin to write the verdict. The birthright is more than what they're offering you today for it. Don't trade it. Don't trade it for anything. Hey, listen, again, that is, you're richer than you think. The dangers of living a discontented life. That wraps up this episode of Mind Your Business. And I want to take a moment to thank you, because you didn't have to spend the time with me. And the fact that you did means everything. It means everything. Again, you can download the Esau audit at IamCliffWatson.com. You already know what we're here about at the Mind Your Business podcast. 3 pillars, 1 transformation. 3 pillars, 1 transformation. We deal with business development, personal mastery, and spiritual maturity, because real success isn't just about chasing a bag. It's about becoming whole. It's about becoming whole. The whole man, the whole woman, walking in purpose, on purpose. Now, if this episode blessed you, it challenged you or made you think, don't keep it to yourself. I want you to please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody in your circle, or share it with a lot of people in your circle, if you will, who needs to hear it. That's how we build this community, and that's how we build this thing together. If you want to go deeper, connect with me, or access more resources, you can find everything on IamCliffWatson.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter there. I am Cliff Watson, and I want to leave you with this. You already have what you need, the gifts, the experience, and the story. It's all right there. Now stop waiting and start using it. Go mind your business, all of it. I am Cliff Watson. God bless you.